Welcome to Dr. M Health Corner Talk Show. Welcome. It's a Saturday, 10 a.m. MST, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and of course, 7 p.m. in South Africa. Welcome. I see people are coming along with us here. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Today we have quite a sensitive topic. Like last week, PG-18, please. PG-18, we want to be sensitive and not to expose our younger kids to such discussions. And again, I want to remind our LinkedIn family, I'm unable to pull up your comments right away, but as we go along with the conversation, I'll be able to do so. Welcome again. Today, our topic, as you can see on the screen, we're talking depression and suicide in men. This discussion actually was motivated by the sudden death of a young man, very successful man in South Africa, actually. Miguel is right in North America here with me. He's in the States, I'm in Canada. So we decided actually with Kilelo that we should do this discussion. I think it's a topic that is under discussed. You know, we tend to underestimate what men go through. So I'm so happy to bring to you these two men who will share their lives and will share their experiences. Again, you want to be sensitive with the age of your children who will be watching this with you. Thanks for joining. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm going to start right away. Miguel, you want to introduce yourself, and then afterwards, go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah. Hey, good morning or good afternoon, Dr. Nadi. Thank you so much for inviting me to the conversation. Such an important conversation to be had. I am personally, a mental health speaker, advocate, activist myself here in the United States. I have built a platform on LinkedIn that's talking about mental health. Specifically, what led me to, talk more about mental health was the issue in connection to men, about how men don't talk about it. As a man myself, as a father, I found it hard to start those conversations and didn't see those conversations being had anywhere. And so I thought, why not go in there and essentially be the change you want to see, and so have these conversations where they need to be had, which, LinkedIn is full of business professionals, CEOs, executives who, if impacted, can really start to create change in their own worlds. And as many of us know, business sets the tone for culture and society. So if we can create change there, then we can really create change in our, everyday lives. And so, I've just been doing that for the last couple of years. Currently, I'm partnered with LinkedIn and their, inaugural cohort accelerator, where they've selected 100 people to partner with to continue to empower them to continue the conversations that they're having. And so to have a global company like LinkedIn partner with me and tell me, hey, we want you to have more of these conversations, it just goes to show how important what you're doing, Dr. Nadi and Ms. Makaluza, what you all are doing in this, having these conversations are very much needed. So again, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to hearing more from you all, learning and sharing a little bit from my perspectives.
Thank you so much, Miguel. I love the fact that you chose LinkedIn, because that's where actually these discussions are avoided a lot of times. We tend to think that suicide or probably depression is for a certain class of people. So I'm proud of you. Thank you so much for what you do. Johnny?
Good morning, Dr. Onati. Good morning. Sorry. It's not a morning, man. It's in the afternoon. It's in the evening with us in South Africa.
Good morning, actually, here. That's good.
Yeah, that's hence the mix-up. My name is Sikilelo Valithuba Ucwanini Makaloza. I am born in the Eastern Cape. I'm an agripreneur. I also do this activism, but I'm not doing it in the today's world technology. We do it in the primitive way by talking amongst each other as men, sharing and empowering each other and how to overcome certain issues in life. Personally, I'll be talking about myself, my life story, who I am, where I am, and to my family, those that know the smiling side of me, that have never seen the other side of me. You will have to bear with me. But today, it's about me selfishly. It's about helping the other people to see that we men have to be vulnerable at times. We have to open up. We have to talk. We have to be asked, are you okay? We have to ask those questions. Are you okay? Are you doing well? Are you happy where you are in all aspects of life? I think let me just let it be there for now in the introduction, because I might say a lot,
Bring it on,
but
brother.
let me let it be there for now,
Thank you
so that
so
we
much,
can start.
Tony.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. You know what, to our viewers, I just want us to go back to the history here. You know, when I looked at the stats globally, we are losing 800,000 people to suicide. That means for each 40 seconds, someone dies, right? And this is not just men, this is a general stats. And interestingly, World Health Organization tells us that women are more depressed, but interestingly, men are committing suicide more than women. We're going to unpack that. So stay with us here. Let us know if you can hear us. You know what? I'll start with you, Miguel. I know that last time some people will recognize your face, but of course, there's many other people that don't know you. And you last time you shared your story, and it's amazing how you came out to the other side. Do you want to just take us through what happened to you and how you managed to be here and you are still kicking and you are doing amazing work in mental health?
Yeah, thank you again, Dr. Nani, for having me. So my story definitely, I'd say, as a growing boy, I was always very empathetic. What I see now as empathy. As a kid growing up, you're called a crybaby, you're called, sensitive, you're called, all these things. And so growing up, I always knew there was something different, something going on internally. Like I think of emotions differently and other people's interactions differently. Um, and then there's a stage in my life where I was really trying to convince myself that I'm okay. Like, it is how it is. That's just how life is. I need to suck it up. I need to move on. I need to, and so a big part of me spent my younger years convincing myself that everything was okay. Like, I'm all right. Like, nothing's going on here. It's good. Well, 2009 came around. I'm 17 years old, and then I had an attempted suicide at that time. Still didn't understand like what was really going on internally. Nobody around me understood how to care for that or what to do. So what did we do? We do what we knew best: brush it under the rug. You just ignore it and keep it moving. It happened. Nothing we can do to change it. Let's keep it going. So I did that. I didn't address it. 2016 comes around. At this time, I'm a father of 3 boys. I've got one on the way, married. And I had a mental breakdown in my corporate career. And essentially what happened was my body just couldn't withhold all of this brushing under the rug anymore. It got to a point where it was just too big for me to ignore. I was brought to my knees and I had to face this reality. Well, the first thing I did in that moment was seeking for someone that I could relate to: a man, a Hispanic man, a colored man, a father, someone young, someone that I could see and like see hope in. Like, they went through it, I'll get through it too. Maybe it's dark now, but so that's what I was really looking for when I started my healing journey. Didn't find it anywhere. And so I started to bring these conversations to the corporate world, try to go back into the corporate space and realize just how much stigma was around mental health in the corporate world. And so I ended up having to leave that corporate job. I quit, I left because it was just horrible for my mental health. And I decided at that point, like, we need to have these conversations in the business world. Like I said early on, the business world impacts society and culture. And so where can we create change? Let's create change at the top instead of starting at the bottom. There's a lot of people that are doing great, amazing work there right now. So where can I make some different change? And so what I saw the opportunity was, again, starting at the top with LinkedIn, kind of a top-down approach. And It's been quite the journey. I mean, the first couple of years in my healing, it was really lonely. It was really confusing. I mean, nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about how healing was going to be harder than the trauma itself or experiencing it. Oftentimes the healing is difficult. Nobody told me that. Nobody, because I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. I didn't have anybody to relate to about it. Nobody was having these conversations. And so one of the first stories that I shared here on LinkedIn was actually about my childhood abuse. And I had so many men reach out to me at that time telling me, Miguel, I've never told anybody, but me too. I was abused as a kid. Miguel, I've never gotten help for this, but I'm going to go get help now. And all this time I'm telling myself, who am I to talk about mental health? I'm not a professional. I don't have a doctorate degree. I'm not even in college. I don't have a college degree. So who am I to talk about this stuff? One of the first messages from a video that went viral on LinkedIn was from a trauma specialist. This trauma specialist was a 25-year seasoned trauma specialist who said, Miguel, I had experienced trauma when I was a child. So I grew up to be an adult and immediately wanted to create change. So I wanted to be a trauma specialist. So I immediately went to school. After school, I immediately went into doing my work, and I've been doing it for 25 years. So much that I've never stopped to actually heal and address my own trauma. Coming from a trauma specialist, all these years, I'm telling myself, you have nothing to say. All the professionals are already doing the work. All the professionals are saying what's needed to be said. But to have a trauma specialist come to me and tell me, your story is helping me seek my own healing, that was very confirming that this is my path. This is my purpose right now in this season in life. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so, I've been on LinkedIn, like I said, the last 2 years doing that, having as many conversations as I can. And, I love what, Makaluza said, like, having these conversations in person, that's what needs to be done. That's what is most needed, is community, coming together and, asking the question, not just how are you really doing? Okay. And we lead those conversations by example. How are you really doing? Because I know I'm not great. I know this year's been crazy. I know COVID, messed with my mind. How are you really doing this, today? And so when you ask those questions, it just opens up, a different set of, thinking and conversation. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about, my story on a high level, of just seeking healing. And honestly, Dr. Unadi, I'll be fully transparent. I'm still going through my healing. Like I haven't reached a point where I'm like, I'm there, I'm good, like never again. It's a process for me. And I'm doing this on purpose, sharing through the process, because too often we have people share after the process with 2020 hindsight, knowing, let me package this exactly a certain way. Well, I need to share through it because I need people to see and experience and understand what it's like, that you can be successful and still experience mental health or mental illness. You can experience mental illness and still become successful. I'm an example of both of those, and so I want people to understand the process more and understand what it's like, not just, in hindsight. So that's a little bit about my story there.
Thank you so much, Miguel. Your resilience is so beautiful. And, I'm so sorry for what happened to you as a young boy. You know, we don't hear a lot of those stories. And yet, there's so many young boys that were abused, either emotionally, physically, and sexually. We don't get to hear about the sexual aspect of the abuse. And many people are suffering today. And many of them, they have not dealt with that. How does it manifest? We're going to talk more about it. A lot of times, people find themselves hopping from one partner to another, instability in relationships, trying to escape from this pain. A lot of times people, they go into drugs, in alcohol. We're going to talk more about that. You know what, Danin, I want to hear your story.
Once again, hi to everybody. I want to share my story, but There's a lot that Miguel said. And there's something that he said that is fundamental to this. There is a person that gets involved in this, that starts getting depressed from an early age. I am born, let me just give my background. I am born of two Christians. My father, my mother never knew each other. They were Christians. Got married on that year, and the very same year I was born. Now, how did my mother grow up and how did my father grow up? How did their growing up affect them on parenting me? From my first early years, I have four brothers. One passed away, the middle one. We are four now from a mother, and we're all alive. We're all married. I am on a second marriage. I will tell you all the stories. Something not to say that we hop from one partner to another till you realize that no, something is not right. Then you stop. Once you stop, then that's when the vulnerability comes, when you want to say, now I want that one person that I will stay with, that I will work with. I will understand and let that person understand me. I will leave that one there, but because we always put the burden on the next person, but not on us. I will leave that one there. In the marriage that my mother and my father had, there was issues that were happening. I won't go deeper on them because it is not my stage. I was not married to my father. I was not married to my mother. But the results of their marriage affected us, especially me as an elder, because I could see, I could hear, sometimes I could burst. At one stage, I left home and I told my father, I don't want to stay with you because I don't see myself having peace around you. He didn't understand me. He thought I'm seeking attention. I just want, because there's so many siblings behind me, I'm not being well looked after. So I went and stayed with my uncle on holidays. He decides to take me to boarding school in one of the boarding schools in the Eastern Cape. I get into the boarding school. First thing that I did was to establish my world. That no one, and I put an emphasis, no one will abuse me. I will let no one I will want to walk over. I became shrewd. I became crude. As a result, I was also, I won't go much on this one, but I also got involved in one of the organizations that were fighting then in politics. But I won't dwell much on that because I wanted to be strong. I was a small boy when I got into boarding school. I was 13 years of age, small boy. I wanted to defend myself from the bigger people because I saw bullyism happening in front of me. I saw bullyism happening in my home, and that negatively affected me. But that time I was not dealing with that bullyism myself. I became a bully. I became what I hated. I grew up, left that school, finished to another school. And there were all the other activities now that were happening that I won't get into detail with because they're not necessary in this topic. But I will come to the results of those activities. Because I was not dealing with what I was doing then, I was not sitting with myself and ask, is it really me? Is it really the future that I want? But I didn't know that there's a buildup that is happening in my head and in my mind and in my body that I'm building this person that is strong, that is not saying like as empathetic as Miguel puts it, that person that must be feared, that person that conquers all, that nothing, I will not fail. Failure and impossible were not in my vocabulary in those years. As a result, when I came back, I had a fight with my father. That fight, it still haunts me today. I had a gun I brought home a firearm. I showed my mother how to shoot a firearm so that she could defend the home in the absence of my father. Now, this day, I want to say what was happening. This day, my mother and myself, to put me through varsity, we were selling vegetables. We were picking them from about 120 kilometers from my home. So it was 240 that we have to drive up and down to catch those vegetables. So my father decides that he wants to use the vehicle now that I am using to go to the market. Because he was stronger than me and all of that, he took out the vegetables, I put it back. I got tired. I got inside the house, got my firearm, put it on myself, and I went to him. He was coming in the door. We met each other in the door. He didn't see me coming. I gave him a spear. He went there. I took that baggie after he's emptied it, and I went where he was going. I got into that home. There were, most in the Eastern Cape, they've got those roundabouts. I knocked. First, I shot the dog. And I knocked in there, and I counted, I've got 16 bullets with me. The 16th one will be mine. I will finish them off. I'm tired of them giving pain to my family. So in that, I thought I was fighting for my mother. I thought I was doing the right thing. The intervention that came in there, the old elder that I was staying with at that time, drove from where we used to stay, 1,000 kilometers from my place when he had the incident. Went to fetch me, couldn't find me, but left a message that I must go home. I must leave my place, I must go home. I went there. But that incident stayed with me because my brother that passed on would always remind me that you beat our father. We could not do anything because you were carrying a gun. 1996, June, I go home. We don't talk. He's angry with me. I left him. October, the same year, I get a message from him. I want to talk to you. Immediately, I jump on a bus to Eastern Cape. I get there, I get the father that I knew, the man that gave birth to me. And the first word he said, I am sorry, my son. I didn't know how much I was hurting you. And I said the very same words to him, that I'm sorry that I didn't mean to do all what I said, but I just had it enough. But if you listen to what I'm saying, I was not dealing with everything. We both didn't deal with everything. We just said, sorry, sorry, sorry. We walked. The first time I had a beer with my father, we sat and drank. We went home. That's the last time I saw him alive. Now, December, the same year, 1996, I am getting messages that I must go and see him. I said, no, I'm busy. That time I was doing integration. I was joining the South African National Defense Force. Oh, I'm busy. I'll come and see you guys. Little did I know that it was going to be the last message that he will send me. He took his own life in December that year. Each and every time when the shit hits the fan, pardon for language, it gets to me. Why? Why? I didn't understand how you lived. I didn't understand why you were the most feared person, but the most cheerful person. He would make the room lit up when he's happy. He was this person that everybody wanted to be around. Most of my family who never knew what was happening, who would see or be told that this happened, they didn't know the other side of him that we knew. Little did I know that I will be that replica. So we bury him. I was told that I must leave Cape Town for Eastern Cape. I was not told that my dad is gone. I get into the Eastern Cape. I get into this car. I see my mom, my aunt, and another old man that was driving the car. The first person I asked, where's my brother? Oh, he's at home. Then where's my father? Then my aunt gets irritated. Let me just tell you, your dad passed on. I didn't ask how, I didn't ask anything else. I said, stop the car, I'm going back to Cape Town. You cannot tell me now that I must travel from Cape Town to Eastern Cape all this time that you never told me that my dad is gone and how he's gone. So that's none of my business. I'm going, I've got a business to do. I have to finish my integration. So I only now when I realized that I was still angry. I haven't dealt with my issues. So whenever that name or he's called in that this has happened or whatsoever, it invokes something in me that says, well, that's stupid. He's a coward. He's whatsoever. I gave him all these labels. The next day, believe me, I was on a bus to Cape Town. Got into Cape Town, finished my businesses. There's nothing else has happened. I arrange, I'm going to go home and bury my father. I get there, everybody's working. My siblings will remember this. I refuse to work. I refuse to participate in that work for preparing his funeral. The only thing I did, I asked them that when he comes home, please open him up for me. I want to see him. That's the only thing. Even at the funeral, I didn't even watch this. Remember that we take those footages for I didn't watch it. Years later, in all that has happened with those incidents that I'm recalling, I got involved in relationships. The reason why I'm bringing this, it's because this is what shapes us as human beings. The relationships that we have with each other, with siblings, with environment, with money, with everything that makes life. How now all these things that have shaped you makes you relate to everything that's around you. So this is what I did. Got involved in relationships. If a person does not suit the thing or does not give me the needs that I'm gone. I'm gone. And then I started having children with different women because first of all, when I give my heart, it's warm. But nobody knows what's deep inside me. The moment you show a little sign of betrayal, I'm gone. I don't want to confirm. I don't want to ask because I'm afraid of what will come out. So I became the coward. I got married. A lot of things happened in the marriage. It became too toxic. But nobody will believe me. When I left that marriage, nobody saw me coming because everything I was doing with a smile. I knew that this marriage is gone. I knew that everybody will talk me out of it. I knew that no matter whoever I talk to won't hear me, won't listen to me. Something that gets us into depression and anxiety, when you notice that you reach out, you say, hey, I'm overwhelmed with this. But people will say, no. You are a sissy. You're a man, take it. But in that taking it, they did not know that we are getting exhausted. In that marriage, I attempted suicide twice. The first time I got so angry, I took pills, but fortunately, I don't know what happens that someone will come. But the first time, so nobody came, but somebody called. So when I could not answer, because the person I was talking to, that hey, I'm a little bit. He just said, hey, I'm going to his house because I was alone. He got into the house is locked, but he could see that I'm inside. So he broke the door. He got people to break the door and give everything else, and he saved me. Took me to Mitchell's Plain Hospital. I got pumped. They took me for a week. That's when I started to get help now. I met a psychologist, psychiatrist, and all of these things. I came back and I spoke to my mom because somebody said how your mother grew up, how your father grew up has affected them in their adulthood. How they parented you has affected you. So I went, for me now to get the answers of asking, how did you grow up, mom? How were your parents and everything else? And I had to learn that my mother was parented by a single parent. Her mother passed on at an early stage. She doesn't even know her. Okay, I understand. All right. My father, vice versa. The father passed on. So he had to assume the role of being the head of the family. He had older sisters, but he had to assume in running the family. All right, okay, this has happened. Now, when they parented me, they said, okay, this guy, this is his name. My family gave me another name. My first name, Sikilelo, is my father's name. My second name is my grandfather's name. I will tell you why I'm bringing in the names in. Why it became significant for me to go back and understand their history so that I can understand my history. I found out my father got saved, but before he got saved, he was just an ordinary person, living his life as any other young boy will do. So they got married, started marriage, and then they refused to get counseling, guidance, and everything else. They did it on their own. But with God, of course, and all of that. Now, when my father started going outside of marriage, that's when things turned sour for us, who are his children. Believe me, I did the same thing on my marriage. Because when I felt hurt, I decided I cannot hurt this person back. I can't do anything to this person. I won't be my father. Let me go and seek, let me go and hide my feelings somewhere else. Get a side chick. And then the complications of life start beginning through the decisions that you take from there, because now they're going to affect you financially, emotionally. You're going to start drinking a lot because now you've got this guilt that, hey, I'm married, but I've got this affair. And this is the only place that gives my sanity. I get my sanity when on my side chick than when I'm at home. At home is horrible. I'm screamed at, I'm shouted at. The parents, the in-laws, let me say the parents or the in-laws or whatsoever, or my mother, you understand, is in here. My aunts are in here. Everybody's in here because they know that, hey, the person is struggling mentally. It becomes sickness, but through behavior. And now, there's something that Miguel said, when the system shuts down, believe me, in the moments when one decides to take his life, the system has shut down. You have no empathy. You have nothing. The only thing that you feel that I want to get out of this misery and pain that I'm feeling. But the rolentando to that, it's inevitable because there's something about people that are depressed. People say we don't talk. We talk. But nobody hears. Nobody lends an ear. And in most instances, I will talk about us in the South African context, especially the Black folk. There is a religious phenomenon that we live with. You are either saved or you are worshipping ancestors. That's what they say. We have got our traditional things of doing. But in all of these things, there's either good or bad. Now, the significance of bringing these things up. I know I've talked a lot and some people maybe have lost interest, but why I'm bringing these things up? Because I don't want to go deeper in them, because the moment I go deeper in them, I don't want to Some people in my life will be revealed. You understand? I don't want that because some I didn't consult, some I consulted. But what is important is to talk about the impact of all of those things in my life. Remember, for me to know what was happening, I had to see a doctor. Dr. Hank, a psychologist, and the psychiatrist that said, go and investigate what happened. The investigation triggered me to seek for healing because I cannot be my past. I cannot be whatever that has happened in my life. Believe me, my eye can come out now, but I cannot be that person that is got one eye. I can't live my life like that. The second suicide came in while I was in Pretoria this time, but the circumstances around that were very, very different from the first one. The second attempt, it also landed me in hospital. It came from a conversation I was having with myself. After so many attempts in making life, believe me, I had a cushy job, earning beautiful money, having a car, having a lovely child, married, but the problems in marriage, the problems at work, the problems that I went to fetch myself by getting involved in extramarital relationships, the decisions I've made financially that will have a negative impact in our lives, they came back crashing on me. And I saw myself as a failure. Everything that I did good to fight for others, for other people's life, for advancement, diminished. Because when I looked at the mirror and I put Osikilele in front of me, I saw a broken, crying child that I could not stomach. I decided to end my life because I knew that I am insured. That time I had everything that I said, my children won't suffer financially. It's only that I will be absent, the pain. Now I went back and I saw, oh, this is what my father realized. So he just said, okay, we were going to be better without him. But were we better? Because I had to step up now. I had to assist my brothers go through school. I had to assist my mother to take my brother to school because her salary was not enough for that big family that she had. We went through all of that beautifully. A first graduate came from our family. My youngest brother was a chartered accountant now. It changed our lives. I saw a break. My other brother, he came in to Cape Town. They said, I'm looking for a university. I did something which I'm not proud of, but the results, it's something that changed his life. He was looking for a different field, different career. Because I had connections, I took him to university and I made my connections. He went to study pharmacy. He's a pharmacist now. But all of these things, when I look, no, this is what you wanted. It is not what they wanted. I was living my life through other people. So when my nakedness came, when I looked at what have you achieved? Nothing. You got the bank balance good. You got all these things, but you were empty. Then that's when I decided to take my life. But fortunately, I walked from where I did this to another place which I wanted to be isolated. But unfortunately, a person that knows me came and phoned my friends and they took me to hospital. Now, a second encounter with psychologists, psychiatrists, but now this time they put me in a psych ward. And this psych ward, we were talking because we all came awake. Hey, we are locked. Some others have got, I also had a handcuff on this side and on the bed because they say I was violent, I was moving too much. I begged them, please take them off. I had to give them a word that I take them off. When I spoke to others, hey, brother, no, I'm married. What happened? I messed up. I blew it. I messed up financially. I messed up all of these things. That world of mine started coming up again. But now, this time, I had to find solutions. I had to find tools. Now, I had to understand what is toxic in my life. I had to shed friends. I had to shed relationships that people outside thought they were meaningful in my life. So that's when the divorce came. I departed from my marriage while I was in it. 2011, I finished it. But we had a relationship of talking and doing everything else. But I was alone gone. But each and every day I sit and think, why don't I confront my fears? Why don't I confront the people that are hurting me? Why don't, because I would say, I don't like this. I'll show my anger. But while I'm still talking, I'm not showing the anger that I'm feeling. But when I'm quiet and start smiling, that's when the problems come. That's when the viciousness comes. I had to deal with those things. So my story, it's about people will never understand when one says, now I'm leaving this earth. I've been there. Later stage, I will tell you how it feels. I will tell you what goes in through your mind. It was just a summary. I was just giving a brief of why am I here? Why am I able to spot someone that is in trouble? Because I've been there.
Yes.
I have told myself that I have to awaken my inner being. Now I'm able to understand the tone of a person. I'm able to see your facial and your body language will tell me your attentiveness to what I'm saying or whatever is happening in your life. Because I had to seek to understand and get people to help me understand those things. Believe me, when I'm smiling and doing all of these things, like right now I'm breaking. But because I committed to share this, I have to stand up and share it. Because Unati didn't force me. I just said, you know what? People need to see. They need to see this. As I'm talking today, I have chest pains right now because I had to fight. Some other things, I'm bottling them at this present moment because I don't want to talk about them. There is no use because the moment as a man, especially an African black person, when you lose it all, you lose your finances, it's not necessarily maybe you lose it, maybe something happens that you cannot access your money. You become vulnerable because we as men are made of, I can provide. I need to be the one that shows love to my wife. I need to be the one that like bringing security and everything else in my family. If I can't do that, I fail. The corporate world says you have to be that manager that produces results. But they do not look at your well-being if your sanity is there to deliver the results. The pressure is there for you to perform. So what do? Result, I'm going to have a relationship, an affair. I'm going to be drinking. I'm going to be doing all of these things, and we will post beautiful pictures. There is something that is happening in this world, which I say we live in a virtual world. We've packed reality. We believe in friendship that don't build us, but as long as we laugh. It does not have a value or impact in your life, but as long as I laugh, we think that relationship is healthy. We share things with people that do not have an interest of us prospering. You know, in South Africa, there is this thing that called the bad omens that people do. We do them with our mouths because they say with words we create. With the dialogue that you have with yourself, you are conditioning yourself how to react to the world. Literally, that has been my story. I apologize for being long, but I wanted people to understand that I cannot summarize it further, but we will unpack some little nuggets in it. What happens in there, how this person transit from this state to this. Believe me, people that know me, if they're watching today, they don't believe what I'm saying. But we break day in, day out. We push ourselves from leaving the bed. I'm currently doing things because I'm not employed. The income, the little income that I bring in is either I am trading or I go out and plow vegetables. I go out and do poultry. You understand? I tried some construction, didn't work out. We're not paid. Frustration. Banks have our accounts closed, suspended, with money in it frozen. We're dealing with an institution that is not empathetic to anybody else. And when they get you, you're mad. We get sick, high blood pressure, every psychosomatic disease that comes in because of this emotional roller coaster that you are in attacks you. Thank you for now.
Wow, Juanin, you're supposed to teach this. This is a lecture, actually. You know, you said a lot of things, and Miguel, and to our viewers, I want to actually, they said a lot of things. I'll just summarize. There's anger there, there's aggression. And I want people to know this. Depression in men tends to be slightly different compared to the counterparts. What it means, a lot of times, even as physicians, we have to unpack their stories. If a man comes into you with a high blood pressure, with chest pains, he just described that, and a lot of times men come with such somatic symptoms. They have back pain, they have upset stomach. Those are the things that bring them in without saying, Doc, I'm struggling emotionally. All right. And there's a whole lot of things. Also, culture has a component. When we raise our boys, I always say, when you raise your boy, how do you treat your boy when you have a boy child and a girl child? Do you shut your boy child when he's hurting? Do you tell him what other people would say or other siblings would say because that's when the shutting down starts. It starts, Kilelo mentioned something about that inner child. All of us have inner child. We have that 5-year-old that was full of life, that was happy. All of us, when we are born, we are full of life. Something happens to us. Something happens to us. It could be a word, it could be an act, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. Those things could shut us down. And hence today, I would like us to be very careful with the words we use. When we start saying to people, what's wrong with you? It's a very insensitive approach. We need to listen to people and say, what happened to you? Each one of us has a story. Each one of us was wounded at some point. It's up to us to unpack those stories. Skilero mentioned something about suicide. As you see, his dad passed away with suicide. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to the history, backward, the great grandfathers, there could be a history there. Miguel mentioned also he had suffering. So a lot of times when we are not dealing with that pain, we are not debriding that wound, we put a band-aid on it, it presents in toxic ways. Anger, aggression, violence. And sometimes depression actually could even have psychotic features where you start hearing voices, you start having paranoia, you start even attacking people thinking that they said stuff that is negative about you. It comes with a whole lot of other things. And of course, like I said, it can also be very toxic, destructive behaviors. You start getting involved with members that are not are productive for you, constructive for you. There's a lot of drug use, a lot of alcohol. And also, we tend to escape with materialism. A lot of times we see men, these men mention that corporate space, competitive. We see depressed men in that space doing really well. We have ex- men successful in the word materialism, successful CEOs that are doing really well, and then you hear of this man, he has committed suicide. We all wonder how. How did he do that? He had all the life we admired outwardly. And they both mentioned here they were empty inside at some point in our lives. Without wasting our time, I would like to hear from you, Miguel. What turned your life around? Today, you are changing lives on LinkedIn. You are positive. And of course, I like the fact that you mentioned that it's an ongoing journey for you. It has not stopped. You are aware of your feelings, you are aware of your emotions, and you continue to seek help. Can you share with the community here how are you coping each day?
Yeah, I think, Makaluza put up a great point of seeing a doctor, seeing a professional. We can take advice from so many people and we can read podcasts and books or listen to podcasts and all that stuff. But ultimately, we do need to see a professional. We do need somebody to kind of guide us and help us on what to do and where to go. And on that same front, though, we can't just leave it all for the doctor. We have to do our own work with other people in our lives, whether it's involving our spouses, whether it's involving our close friends, our managers. It has to be something that you do on yourself. I started my healing journey through therapy, through a doctor diagnosing me with post-traumatic stress, PTSD, and depression and anxiety. And I went through my therapy, and there came a point where I started to do my own research on healing methods and therapies out there. And it wasn't, I learned from my own research about neuroplasticity. I mean, if you've never heard that word before, at 26 years old, that word blew my mind. I was 26 years old before I understood that your brain isn't just how it always, it isn't how it always be. Like, you can change your brain. I grew up thinking that your brain goes through these formative years as a child, and then that's it. That's just who you are. There's no way to change it. I didn't understand that neuroplasticity, you really can change your thinking. Our brother was saying, being able to look at things differently and examine things introspectively and think of different perspectives. That is part of neuroplasticity, being able to train your better habits. He mentioned, convincing. I feel like part of it was convincing yourself. I mean, he was mentioning convincing himself that, things are great, the cars, the money, the jobs, everything's good. And I think that's a big part of it. As men, we try to convince ourselves that it's all right. Like, I'm dealing with it. It's here. It's not overcome me, my life, And so embracing professional help, but also being, courageous and vulnerable enough to bring other people in my close circles into what I was feeling. Because, he mentioned, how we talk often. People say, people that are depressed and anxious don't talk. We talk, but people aren't listening. And sometimes it's those even just little keywords of when I was really depressed and people would ask me, how are you doing? Instead of saying I'm good, and instead of saying I'm bad, I need help, I would say I'm all right, to see if somebody would dig in a little bit more, or see if anybody cared enough to discover something. So I would say I'm all right. And cool, that's cool. Well, I hope the conversation would continue. And so even those little things, we have to slow down in this world. The brother mentioned the virtual world that we're living in. This virtual world is increasing and growing at a speed that is just unimaginable. And everybody's on that ride. Everybody's moving fast, running towards the next business venture, the next opportunity, instead of slowing down to understand yourself first, and to see everyone around you, to hear everyone around you, to feel everyone around you, what's going on. And so putting myself in those positions really is what turned it around for me to be able to start healing and talking about it. Not everybody needs to talk about it in the way that we're doing here on a social media platform publicly. You talk. essentially you just need to get it out some way, whether it's writing it, whether it's, talking to just one person, whether it's on social media, whatever it is for you, we have to talk about it. I once heard, emotions are energy in motion. And so when you don't deal with emotions, that energy stays stuck in you. And that's what happened to me in 2009. I had that attempted suicide. I didn't deal with it. The emotions, that negative energy was here, and it built up and it built up and it built up till I wasn't able to hold it in no more. And for me, one of the reasons why I continue to talk about it is because I don't want everyone to have to be brought to their knees before they seek their own healing. We need to be preventative about this. We need to stop holding everything in and letting those negative energies build into us. We have to release it somehow, some way. Even if it's saying it out loud, even if it's talking to a person, we have to express it. So finding a way to express it, finding professional healing, and finding people in my own life, surrounding myself with people in my life who I could open up to, that's really what kind of, turned things around for me.
That's so beautiful, Miguel. And you continue doing this amazing work. The amount of vulnerability you share on LinkedIn, I'm seeing your community growing and the people that are joining forces. It's just beautiful to watch how many men and women actually, the reason why I decided to get to this space, I felt we don't have many women who are interested in listening and also engaging and listening to what men are going through. And I know part of it is the cultural component of we've been fighting patriarchy forever. So there's that power struggle. Women, they feel it's our turn, and now it's becoming toxic feminism and all that stuff. So we are missing the point. And I would like for people to realize that we can coexist and recognize each other as fellow humans, and still have beautiful relations. Yes, go ahead. Miguel.
Right. And more than that is that we can help each other. Like, I don't need to be just, we have like this mindset that a woman can't help us, that a man can't help a woman, that if it's, we have all these workshops for women and for men, and it's nothing but men and women in them. And it's like, we need different perspectives. We can be healed by, it's, our gender isn't what's healing us. It's our experiences, our connections, our emotions, and so I applaud you and, admire you for the work that you're doing, because we don't have most men are just working with men. Most women are working with just women, but there's power in being able to learn and heal from each other, So I thank you for opening up this space to be a woman and to step into into it with men and say, let's heal together. Let's figure this out together, not just with men and just exclusively with women, because at the end of the day, we all have feminine and masculine energy, all of us,
Absolutely.
and so being able to bring all of that together is essential for sure. So again, I just want to applaud you and recognize you for doing what you're doing, because not a lot of people do that.
Thank you so much, Miguel. Honestly, I just felt if we're going to coexist and have a better future for our children, today we have these beautiful women, Oprahs and Michelle Obamas and other powerful women empowering girls. And that's beautiful. I'm pro that. But when we leave these boys behind, who's going to marry these girls? Right? Because it's going to
Exactly.
be a whole lot of vicious cycle and toxicity in those marriages because we are empowering girls and leaving boys behind. So it's high
Exactly.
time we have these conversations. You know what, Janine, I would like you to actually share how you got to the other side. And by the way, before you do that, you were saying that people who are watching this would not believe the past you just shared. And indeed, I was drawn to your beautiful spirit, your demeanor, your aura was just beautiful. We were actually, how we met with Kilelo is there was a young child who committed suicide. We actually come from the same community. So in our high school there's a child who committed suicide. And him and myself and other activists, they were talking and we shared there was something beautiful about your spirit. And I want to bless you for actually reconnecting with yourself. That's who you were meant to be. I want you to know that. And hold on to
Thank
it
you.
because that's who you were meant to be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. There's just something before I can say what I want to say, because my path has been with two journeys. The person that I would confide in and the person I would just let it out, my feelings, raw as they are, is my mother. And my mother will tell me that, you know what? I asked you that be saved, my son, and then you will let Jesus Christ fight your battles. And I said to her, I don't dispute that, but I have feelings that I need to deal with. I have life that I need to deal with. Because if I'm living with Christ, Christ is living in me. I don't live in him, he's in me, we together. Because if you understand the creation of man, that's when I understood what is a man, that is when this thing started to fold and change. Now I'm still struggling somehow. If we go into the scripture, whether what scripture it is, but it will tell you that God gave breath to a man. So we have a spirit of God in us. We are like God. We have the energy and the power as God. Now that I took it and I translated into the person that I wanted to live, be, and the natural me to come out. But in that process, it becomes a painful process because as I said to you, that there are things that didn't need to go. There are things that you just need to let go. Relationships that you need to let go. No matter how important they are. But there are relationships that you need to start building on the other side. Because those that you are building will be your consciousness, that will hold you firm in whatever that you are doing. But in the process, there's something that I want to bring into this topic. The depression is the first. Okay, it starts with anxiety. After anxiety comes depression. Then after depression, suicide. But in the process, the ones that are in relationships, we tend to give it to our partners. That's why now you'll find that there's lots of violence in marriages. There's lots of abuse in relationships. Because we men, we are told that a man must. The society is not kind enough to a man, even other men. Once you are not providing, you are seen as a failure. But nobody looks at the circumstances that makes that particular person not to provide. Once that person is not married, you are seen as a failure. Nobody asks what are the circumstances of that person not being married. Now, we get into relationships with our burdens, with our emotions. We get into relationships with people with their baggage and their emotions. We clash because I want my spouse now to be my therapist. And on the other side, my spouse wants to have a husband that's going to be macho and do everything else. The clash of that brings in a person to a halt. Most of us don't confront this. We don't talk about it with our spouses. Secondly, there's something that has taken over the world, the cell phones. People come home and they will be on social media 24/7. We are consumed with work, we are consumed with social media, we're consumed with hype and everything that's around us, but we forget to live. I'm talking about the ones that are in relationships. I'm talking about, because some of these things, me and my wife, we speak about them. We talk about them. Crudely about it, honestly, and you will tell me that, Puti, this is wrong. You cannot do this. You cannot expect me to do this. And I have to take that criticism. We do not want our spouses to be our mirror. I'm sorry, I'm going to raise this thing. There is a video that came up about the brother that passed on that got analyzed about emotions that were shown in there. But another video within the same moments shows a different life. But that's who we are. But nobody saw that this man is reaching out. Everybody is in the expectation that you need to pull out. And we expect our partners to be our psychologists, our pull-out plan. So you asked the question, how did I pull out? It's one, realizing that the decisions that I make have impact, positive and negative impact on my life and the people around me. Taking ownership and accountability for them. Number two is to understand that me as myself, do an introspection within me, see if can I live with myself? Do I love me enough to understand that I am enough for the other person? That boy produced a song. I thought my love is enough for you. I listened to the lyrics. I downloaded them so that I can understand something. It is actually our life. He put it in a snippet that we live to please other people. We live, I will make an example as a bank account. A bank account is only healthy when there's a deposit and a withdrawal. But what we tend to be as the bank accounts, the emotional bank accounts, we give. But the person that we own the bank accounts, which is yourself, we do not deposit in our bank accounts. We do not sit and do an introspection. Besides being asked, are you okay? You need to ask yourself, am I fine? If this happens, why am I reacting as such? Why is it that I do not accept rejection? Why is it that I cannot accept that I fail? Why is it that I cannot accept that I am going to be criticized? Why is it that I cannot accept that I'm going to be judged?
Yes.
And I need to allow people to judge me the way they like. But I need to understand that I do not need to let the world understand my life and what I've been through. So once I grasped that, and it moved from the concept of who is a man. Now I'm not talking about men as in male and female, about a human being. You are a part of God. God will never hate his part. No one will hate a part of himself unless he's made to. He's been made conscious to that. So when I got to understand that all these things I've been conscious to think about, I need to declutter, I need to let them out, I need to unlearn. For me, I am in the process, as Miguel said. Right now, I'm not talking to a professional, but I have put up people that I speak to with my vulnerability, with everything that is happening. And I did that because I prefer to talk to a stranger, somebody that won't judge me. Because I lost my aunt, who I would say to her, she would see me immediately. She would hear the way I laugh that that's not right. He's gone. And he will tell people around me or around her that he is angry. He would pick up while I'm smiling and laughing. She would pick up that he is angry. He's not, but he would put up a smile and laugh. And I had to learn now to say immediately when that happens. And my wife is also assisting me in this. Do not let pile things. When it happens, say it. But now I need to manage how I say it and the manner I present myself to be heard, so that it doesn't come back and be a burden on me in my mind while I'm alone. Because we as men, we do a lot of talking to ourselves. A little thing will be a trigger of anxiety and depression. Your financial ability, the relationships that you are in, with family, with siblings, with the environment. Sometimes you just want to walk alone. Sometimes you just want to be in the forest. Sometimes you just want to be in the sea, hear the sounds and all those things. You want to be in the sun. Most of us wants to go in our little corner and hide and sit inside the house and do all of those things. So for me, I walk. Whenever I feel like I'm suffocating and all those things, I walk around the block. Recently, I made decisions, financial decisions, that took a knock on me because I had a brief, I would say, a brief encounter with money that is coming, that came. But it was just only enticing me. It was my money that got shut. I had to deal with that, but now I have debt now that I've incurred. Now with that, I have to manage. How am I dealing with this? How am I dealing with my health? How am I dealing with my family? With everything that is happening around us. You need somebody to help you with those tools. We as men need to not to take our spouse, our people around us, and as our therapist. We need to understand that. Because in my assumption, believe me, I can unpack the moments that that boy had in his life. If you look at what has happened in there, he wanted to be happy. He wanted to dance with his wife. He wanted to let something out of him. But nobody was there. The wife could not deal with that thing anymore because in my assumption, maybe he was making his wife a therapist. I'm doing the very same thing. That's why I relate to it. In moments, sometimes I will talk to my wife the whole night because I want to let something out. But I'm letting something out at that moment, but am I dealing with really something that is happening with me? No. And Miguel will relate to this. When you have family, you want to be there. But if you're not emotionally there, you are physically there, something is going to give. And you'll go into the corner and say, baby, hey, I need that hug. But now that person, you did let, you bled on, you did everything and you cannot expect a hug from that person. You understand? Because we're not dealing with our little boys and girls inside. Something that I will say that has changed our society, besides social media and the isolate. Okay, let me put it this way. For me, I'm fighting to get out of isolation. The social media world, the technology has put us in cells of isolation. A human being is not meant to be isolated. Hence, it is a punishment in prison that you're going to go to solitude. We are living in solitude. Now, because of the solitude that has been created, we tend to bring in other people that we think they are enough in my circle of solitude. Now, this other person will feel, hey, I'm confined. When that person wants to run, you become frustrated. Your anxiety starts coming up and you feel all alone. And you feel, you know what? If you don't want me, not that the person doesn't love you, not that the person doesn't want to be in your life, but because of that particular moment, you didn't understand that you are suffocating the other person. Whether it's your spouse, your friend, whether it's at work, once you feel the suffocation, run. That's our first instinct. That time we're running, we do not know if that person that is suffocating you, how is that person doing? You understand what I'm saying? So this is what has assisted me, is to understand this dynamics. When this happens, is there somebody that's going to help me? Hey, buddy, you are going there now. Or am I in a level conscious enough to understand that you are sleeping? The moment I don't feel good about myself, I need to understand that something is going to give. So you ask me, how am I surviving? So I'm unpacking these things, that how do you handle the relationship with your spouse? How do you handle your friends? How do you handle your nature? Because all of these things have to work in harmony.
Yes.
I run from solitude. The moment I feel solitude coming, I run. because that is the moment when everything crumbles. In your moment of loneliness. And that is the time you want to go and get that drink that is going to take you away from the misery. That's what you assume, that the misery, it's going to help me. It's going to get me out of. If I do this, at least I'll feel happy. If I have a bottle of whiskey, I'll feel happy. If I go and dance, I'll feel happy. But have addressed your issues, your real issues. You don't have solutions, but you need to address them. So I am real. I am vulnerable. I let it out. And I told my wife, we need to go for counseling because I am letting it out on you and you're not trained for this. But I cannot hide the person that you are living with. You need to understand that this is who I am, this is what is happening with me, so that you can understand how to deal with it. Thank you.
I wish we could actually have more time, and I'm so grateful to you guys. You're just amazing. You know, I'm just overwhelmed with so much gratitude and so much emotions. And every time I come to this space, I'm transformed. I want to share that with you. I change the way I look at life. I change the way I look at people, the way I interact with people. And before we close, I just want for our viewers to understand depressive symptoms. When you have these symptoms for 2 weeks and longer, it's time for you to seek professional help. You know, like I said, men, they tend to have a rather different presentation. Of course, you will have the sadness, the subdued mood, depressed mood, negative thoughts, dark thoughts, right? No motivation, even at work, you are losing the deadlines. Or sometimes, actually, men tend to overwork themselves. Even with the gym, they will go to the gym lots, or it's the opposite. Your sleep pattern, you could be sleeping more or you could be sleeping less. Even your eating patterns, you're eating less or more. You're losing weight probably. And there's that back pain you can't shake off. You have headaches. And that headache could be an indicator that your blood pressure is high, because they just mentioned here you start having physical symptoms, chest pain, and as you worry or you have that chronic stress, there's a hormone in our body called cortisol. It's a stress hormone. That's why today we are very sensitive, even as healthcare workers, not to say people are overeating, because cortisol has been the leading cause of obesity. We are living in a very stressful environment. We are right now there's a pandemic. People lost jobs, people lost relationships. So there's a lot of stress. So that cortisol level and also the adrenaline, the anxiety, and all these high pumping heart rate could lead to high blood pressure, right? And that high cortisol could lead to diabetes. So these things are all linked, right? The suicidal thoughts that come in. So all these symptoms that would come for 2 weeks and longer, please go see your doctor or your psychologist. These two men mentioned the part psychologists play in our role. I would like more, especially Black people, we are not normalizing mental health care. I always say you cannot go to a dentist if you have a broken bone. We tend to have doctors, we tend to have dentists. We need to normalize having psychologists. Have that psychologist and your children to have access. Life is hard, even for teens. Our children are living in the world where it's competitive. We live in the virtual world. Children are competitive. There's cyberbullying. We have exposed our children to all of that, and even not even by our choice. That's just the world we are living in. So we need to normalize having a psychotherapist in our families and your children to have access to a trusted therapist. All right. And of course, the nature. I'm so happy, Janine, you mentioning nature. I follow the news in South Africa. I know one of your popular DJs, Smoo, was encouraging South Africans to hug trees, Miguel. Okay. In this side of the world, it's normal. And people were making fun of it and they thought he was going crazy. Actually, we are even starting to prescribe for people to go to the nature, go for a walk, go to a forest, go and breathe in that beautiful air. It's normal. For heaven's sake, even our air that we breathe, it's from the trees. right? So I would like us to normalize those little things. And unfortunately, you know what? I'm thinking of this amazing psychotherapist is right in the US, Miguel, Esther Perel, talks about we live in a society where it's so fast that in the past we used to live in communities. The issues that were dealt with by our elders, we live in isolation. I thought me living in Canada left my parents, my aunts, cousins back home in isolation with just my nuclear family is, my unique situation. No, I have friends living in Johannesburg in estates. They don't see their parents for the whole year. So we have left the support system we had, right? So we live in isolation. Sikilero was just mentioning that we are making our spouses to be our spouse, to be our mental health worker, to be our financial assistant, to be everything. And it's unfair and selfish. So we do need to realize that we need to have all these communities around us to build us and also to support us. I love that. As we close, I just wanted to just 1 minute word for our community here. I wish we had a part 2 of this. That was heavy. And I can't thank you enough, you guys, for vulnerability. Miguel, do you want to share just one word to share how people could just maybe reach you, actually, how to reach you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nadia, again for having me here. I really appreciate you at these conversations that you're having. Best way to connect with me is definitely on LinkedIn. Just type my name in, or you can even Google my name, and my LinkedIn account will pop up, so you can connect with me. Connect with me too, and let me know, like, hey, I saw you on this show. Let's connect. And then last thing I would say is, from all of this that we talked about, the biggest thing that I took away from this is in 2019, the summer 2019, I went to Guatemala for a mission trip, and my roommate was an 80-year-old man, and I asked him, what's a lesson that you learned in your younger years that you still carry on in life today? And he said, Miguel, the problem is never the problem. He said almost always there is something, be it internally, be it emotionally, mentally, and so the problem is never the problem. There's always something deeper, be it what, again, like, so everything that we talked about today was pretty much laying on that. Like, there's the problem that's presenting itself is there's always something deeper going on, and so let's slow down to remember that and recognize that there's always something deeper going on. So again, really appreciate you having me here, and I'm so thankful for you.
Thank you so much, Miguel, for what you do. And of course, Miguel, also, if you guys are on Clubhouse, he's got a community there. Are you still on there, Miguel?
I am. Yeah, I don't hang out there too much these days, but I am. I'm starting to do a lot of more audios these days. So definitely.
Yes, I saw that. Thank you so much, brother, for what you do. And, your family is so blessed to have you, because honestly, having more men speaking vulnerable and also normalizing these conversations is going to build beautiful emperors, and also really help our children and our boy children, of course, to live in harmony. Hey, thanks so much, Connie. As we close, Budi, do you want to just wrap up and just share your word of how to reach? I actually shared with people there that you can be reached on Facebook. Share your word of how to reach. I actually shared with people there that you can be reached on Facebook.
All right. First of all, I want to apologize for that.
How to reach. I actually shared with people there that you can be reached on Facebook. I don't know what happened.
All right. First of all, I want to apologize for that. Can you hear me? I want to apologize for that. What just happened now? I'm on a phone, so my mom just called now on the cell phone, so I lost the link. I'm on Facebook. I just made a comment right now below the broadcast. It's Sikilelo Makaluza. People can reach me there, but what you just said, Dr. Unati, is that we need to talk more about this. We need to share more of our experiences, because we can't run away that we are living in a social media world. Even if you put it out there, we cannot be ashamed of it, because it's the reality. We cannot run away from reality. We cannot run away from the truth. But what we need to do is to be a better influence in our lives, so that we do not lose lives on suicide. Actually, there's something else I wanted to add. We would talk about this because of the suicide, actually the pain inflicted, self-inflicted pain. But there are many more atrocities that are happening. Some people are hurting others, killing others because of the very same reason, because they don't have a reason to live. Those people are suicidal, but they act differently. You cannot point blank take a gun and kill another person, whereas you have a zeal for life. So the way I look at it, why the crime stats is going like this, why there's so much violence, it is people that are depressed and are wanting to let it out, but they let it out differently by inflicting pain on others other than self-harm. So we are talking about suicide because of this incident. But as I was thinking during the week after we spoke, Dr. Unat, was that most of what is happening in the world is happening because of depression. It's people seeking wrong solutions, and their solution is violence.
As we said,
Violent society comes out of depression,
yes,
comes out of anxiety. The fear makes people do ugliest stuff. I know this because in my as we're closing, in my early childhood life, I would only be aggressive, show offense to protect myself. It's only when I understood that this is wrong. Now, the aggression that I was taking outside, I took it inside. That's when the suicide came. Sometimes not aggression, it is wanting the other people to succeed at all cost of yourself. So we need to be aware of this. We need to talk more about this. We need to explore that what depression does and these results that we don't talk about, because suicide is a result of depression and anxiety. It's one of the results, but the other results that are not explored, that people are not talking about, they think it's about a societal mind or a person that is thinking crime is the answer. But have you looked at that person in a perspective of the mindset of that person? How does a man rape a 2-year-old child or a baby? That person is not right inside. We are not addressing those issues. We are looking at the results. We need to go back and understand that children out of wedlock, remember we spoke about this day in the school. We have children that are out of wedlock. They won't have fathers. They will be raised by single parents. But that was not the creation wanted. So we brought about the imbalance. So we need to address that imbalance that we brought into the world. We are bringing in more imbalances by this superficial life or this artificial life that we are living. And now it is okay for our children to have sex at 10, 12. They will have children that won't have parents. Those children will grow up, going to be angry, going to be all of the sorts of these things. And this is going to be more. So we need to think back that how was the society created? What were the societal norms and the basics of it? We need to go back there. Thank you.
Connie, we're going to actually come back with part 2 because we need to actually look at the social determinants and also go back there. Are socially. Because Connie, we're going to actually come back with part 2 because we need to actually look at the social determinants are socially. Connie? Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. We're going to definitely come back with the second part here because there's so much that came out of this conversation. I'm so happy we had it. And you guys, man, you brought me to my core, right? Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I haven't had such a deep conversation with men for a long time. Thank you, thank you, thank you for what you do. Again, God bless you guys. Thank you so much. I actually think we need to come back. We're going to talk in the background here and see what other topics we could bring in. And of course, we could bring other men too and other women. You know, like I said, we need more women to do this work. Thank you so much, guys. To our viewers, thank you. You are still here watching. God bless. And, you know, when we have these conversations, they are brought to us to think to have these conversations with ourselves, with our families, and how do we impact our surroundings, the environment we live in? How do we change our parenting? How do we go back to those stories? I always say we did not choose our parents, we didn't choose our backgrounds, but also it's our responsibility to reparent ourselves. We cannot continuously blame our parents. Yes, maybe something happened to you because of your parents, but it's high time for you to be a better person. Also, if you're going to bring children to this world, not to replicate yourself, right? It's our responsibility to reparent ourselves to make this place a better world. Again, thank you so much, Bonin, Miguel. God bless you guys. I love you. Take care.
God bless. Take care.
Thank you.